My friend Carol decided to throw a grand surprise party for her husband's 70th birthday, but the surprise turned out differently than she had planned. During the party, all the guests witnessed a scene that changed their lives forever, and these changes turned out to be much deeper than anyone could imagine. Hello, friends. My name is Barbara Johnson, and today I'm going to tell you a story that happened last year in our small town of Milford, Connecticut. This is a story about betrayal, secrets, and ultimately about the power of human dignity. Before I begin, write in the comments which city you're from. I love getting to know my listeners. Carol and Dan Thompson were the model couple in our town. 45 years of marriage, 2 adult children, 5 grandchildren. Dan was a successful doctor. Carol had worked as a nurse in the same clinic all her life. They were respected, envied, looked up to. Carol and I had been friends since college. I watched their relationship with Dan develop from their romantic first meeting at a charity ball, where he, then a young resident, couldn't take his eyes off Carol in her blue dress, to the lavish wedding at St. Paul's Church, which was the event of the year in our town. I observed as they joyfully bought their first modest house how Carol cried with happiness when she found out about her first pregnancy, how they overcame difficulties together when their son Jeffrey fell seriously ill at the age of 7. Throughout all these years, I never had any doubts about the strength of their marriage. Dan climbed the career ladder from resident to chief cardiologist at our county hospital. Carol supported him every step of the way, combining her own work as a nurse with raising children and creating a cozy home atmosphere. They seemed like the perfect couple. He was attentive and caring. She was loving and devoted. I often told my husband Howard, "Why can't we be as happy as the Thompsons?" Carol started planning the party 3 months in advance. She took it seriously, started a separate notebook for notes, began collecting old photographs for a slideshow, even signed up for cooking classes to personally prepare Dan's favorite dessert, lemon cheesecake. Her enthusiasm was contagious. "This party needs to be special," she told me over coffee at our favorite cafe, Mabel's. 70 years is no joke. Dan has dedicated 50 of them to medicine, 45 to our family. He deserves the best. She booked the best hall in the City Club, the same one where their wedding reception once took place. She invited 80 guests, relatives from different parts of the country, old friends, colleagues. She ordered a 3-tiered cake from the best bakery in town, hired a string quartet to perform Dan's favorite melodies. With my help, she found a collectible Omega watch, exactly the one Dan had dreamed of but never bought for himself, considering it too extravagant. "He has always been frugal," Carol explained, examining the elegant watch in its mahogany box. "We could afford luxury, but Dan always thought about the children's future, about college, about our own retirement security. That's why I want to give him such a gift, so that he finally starts thinking about his own desires." 2 weeks before the party, I noticed something was wrong with Carol. We met for our traditional Saturday lunch, and she wasn't herself, distracted, quiet, as if something heavy was weighing on her soul. Her usually neat hair was carelessly tied in a ponytail, dark circles shadowed her eyes. She barely touched her favorite shrimp salad. "Are you feeling well?" I asked, when for the 3rd time she missed my question. Yes, she replied, forcing a smile. "Just tired with all this preparation. So many details to remember, and I'm not as energetic as I used to be." I didn't believe her, but I didn't push. Everyone has difficult days, and organizing a big celebration really could be exhausting. When I asked about the details of the party, Carol came alive again, telling me about the menu she was choosing with the club's chef, about the music that would play during dinner. "And how's Dan? Doesn't he suspect anything?" I asked. Her face momentarily darkened. "No, he's very busy lately, lots of patients, consultations, even on weekends. Says he wants to get everything in order before possibly retiring." But a week before the party, she called me late in the evening. It was almost 11. I was just about to go to bed when the phone rang. Seeing Carol's name on the screen, I immediately felt anxious. She never called this late. "Barbara?" Her voice was barely audible, as if she was trying to speak very quietly, and it trembled. Can I come over? I need to talk to someone, right now." "Of course, dear. What happened? Are you okay?" I don't know. I can't talk about it on the phone. I'll be there in 20 minutes. She hung up, leaving me in a state of complete confusion. I woke Howard, who was already dozing by the TV, and warned him that Carol was coming over with some problem. My husband just nodded sleepily. He was used to friendship crises sometimes happening at the most inconvenient times at our age. I put the kettle on, took out cookies I saved for special occasions, and waited. In exactly 19 minutes, Carol was always punctual. The headlights of her Toyota flashed on the path in front of the house. I went out on the porch to meet my friend, and froze when I saw her face in the light of the street lamp. She looked 10 years older than a week ago, pale, with eyes red from tears, with trembling hands. "What happened, Carol?" I asked, sliding a cup of hot mint tea with honey towards her. She always loved mint tea with honey when she was upset. Carol took a few small sips, as if gathering strength. Then she opened her purse, an elegant leather accessory, a gift from Dan on their 40th anniversary, and took out a folded piece of paper. "I found this yesterday," she said quietly, smoothing the paper on the table with trembling fingers. I was going through the pockets in his jacket before taking it to the dry cleaners. He was planning to wear this jacket to the party, wanted to look impeccable. It was a receipt from Carter's jewelry store downtown. I knew the place well, a luxury jewelry store where Howard once bought me pearl earrings for our 30th wedding anniversary. We ate oatmeal for a whole month afterward to make up for the expense. The receipt was dated the day before yesterday, a gold bracelet with diamonds, eternity model, the price $5,000. The Thompsons could afford it, but the amount was still significant. "Maybe it's your surprise for your birthday next month?" I suggested, trying to find an innocent explanation. Carol shook her head, a bitter smile appearing on her face. "No, this isn't about my birthday. Dan always gives me pearls. In 45 years, not once has he broken this tradition. A pearl ring, pearl earrings, a pearl brooch, a pearl necklace. He always says diamonds are vulgar, that they're flashy, not for real ladies. Pearls are elegant and refined, like me." Those are his words, but here a gold bracelet with diamonds for $5,000. She paused, took out her phone, and after brief scrolling showed me the screen. And that's not all. It was a message in a messenger app, clearly from Dan's phone, though I could only see part of the screen, from a user named Marge P. I read the text. "Can't wait for the weekend. It will be just you, me, and that little cottage by the lake. Like last time, only this time I'll prepare something special." How did you see this?" I asked cautiously. "He was taking a shower yesterday and left his phone on the nightstand. Usually I never check his phone. Never. In 45 years I've never done it. But after the receipt, I just felt something was wrong. And then this message came. I managed to take a screenshot before he came out of the bathroom. Could it be a patient?" I tried to suggest an innocent explanation, though I didn't believe it myself. Maybe she's just thanking him for a consultation or something? "A patient with whom he spends weekends in a cottage by the lake." Carol smiled bitterly. "A patient who hints at a last time and is going to prepare something special with a wink at the end of the message? Barbara, he's 70 years old. I thought we were long past this stage. I thought our marriage was strong." She covered her face with her hands, her shoulders trembling. I hugged my friend. In all the years of our friendship, I rarely saw Carol in tears. She was always the strong one, keeping everything under control, the one who comforts others. "Maybe there's some explanation," I began, though I didn't really believe it myself. "What explanation could there be for this, Barbara?" She wiped her tears with the back of her hand, like a child. 45 years. For 45 years I've been the perfect wife. I supported his career. I gave birth to and raised his children. I was there in the toughest moments, when he doubted himself, when he lost patience, when he quarreled with his father and didn't speak to him until his death. And now when we're over 60, when we should be enjoying life, grandchildren, travel, now he's cheating on me with some Marge. I took her hand. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," she sighed, looking completely drained. "The party's in a week. Everything's planned. Everything's paid for. 80 people are expecting invitations. Our children have already bought tickets to come with their families. Jeffrey is flying in from California. Lauren is coming from Boston with all 3 kids. How can I cancel all this?" "You could," I suggested carefully. "Say Dan is sick, that the doctor prescribed him rest. No one would question it. He's not young after all." "And then what? Stay silent? Pretend everything's fine? Continue living with this man who looks me in the eye every day and lies?" Who plans meetings with another woman while I'm making dinner for him? I understood her pain. It was hard to imagine what a woman feels after dedicating almost half a century to her marriage, to her husband, only to suddenly discover that it was all built on sand. I could talk to him, I offered. Maybe Howard and I could. No, she interrupted firmly. This is my problem, my marriage. I'll handle it myself. She was silent for a minute, looking out the window at the night street of our quiet suburb. Then she turned to me, and in her eyes I saw a strange determination that I hadn't noticed before. The party will happen, she said calmly, almost coldly, but it won't be what he expects. What do you mean? I asked, feeling a sudden anxiety. She shook her head. Better you don't know all the details, Barbara. Just be there, support me, as always. That ended our conversation that night. Carol finished her tea, hugged me, and went home. I couldn't sleep for a long time, thinking about what she had planned and whether she might do something she would later regret. The next few days passed in a flurry of final preparations. Carol insisted that I help her with the organization as planned. She was surprisingly collected, calm, almost detached. No one who didn't know her as well as I did would have guessed that her heart was broken. She continued to coordinate the menu with the club, organize the seating of guests, check the music program. The only change I noticed, she canceled the order for the Omega watch for Dan. The day of the party arrived. It was a beautiful autumn Saturday, clear sky, fresh but not cold air, golden maple leaves swirling in a light breeze. A perfect day for celebration. I arrived at the City Club at 3 o'clock to help with the final preparations. The hall was decorated with balloons and ribbons. The festive table was loaded with delicacies. On the wall hung a large banner with the inscription, "Happy 70th birthday, Dan," and a collage of photographs from different periods of his life. Carol had made it herself. I helped with the final preparations and was impressed by Carol's calmness. Only a slight paleness and dark circles under her eyes indicated her inner state. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I asked quietly. "Absolutely," she replied, adjusting her new hairstyle and elegant dress, which she had bought especially for this evening. Guests began arriving at 6. The Thompsons' son, Jeffrey, brought Dan under the pretext of dinner just for the two of them. When they entered the hall, everyone shouted, "Surprise!" Dan was shocked. He stood with his mouth open, then began laughing and hugging guests. The party began. People ate, drank, danced. Dan received gifts and compliments. Carol stood nearby, smiling and thanking everyone for coming. At 8 o'clock it was time for toasts. Jeffrey spoke about what a wonderful father Dan was. Colleagues from the clinic praised his professionalism. An old friend recalled their fishing trips. Finally, it was Carol's turn. She stood up, took the microphone, and smiled. "Thank you all for coming today to celebrate my husband Dan Thompson's 70th birthday." The hall fell silent. Everyone expected a touching speech about the long years of life together. 45 years ago, I married a man whom I considered honest, faithful, and decent. We built a life together, raised children, helped them through college, welcomed grandchildren. Dan smiled, but somewhat uncertainly. Something in Carol's voice alarmed him. All these years, I believed our marriage was special, that Dan and I were partners, friends, lovers. She paused. But a week ago, I learned the truth. Dan stopped smiling. "A week ago, I found this." She took out the receipt from the jewelry store from her purse. "A diamond bracelet for $5,000. Not for me, of course. Dan always says diamonds are vulgar." The hall became absolutely quiet. Some guests began to fidget uncomfortably in their seats. And then I saw a message on his phone from a woman named Marge. She wrote about the weekend they would spend together at a cottage by the lake. Dan's face turned white as chalk. He began to rise from his seat, but Carol continued. "I didn't understand who this Marge was, so I decided to do a little investigation. And you know what I found? Marge Peters, 58 years old, works as an administrator at the same clinic as Dan, divorced, 2 adult children, and, most interestingly, the owner of a small cottage by Lake Candlewood. Marge Peters. I looked around the room and saw her, an attractive blonde in a red dress, standing by the bar. Her face was frozen in shock. "Carol, please," Dan finally found his voice. "It's not what you think." "Oh, I think it's exactly what I think," Carol replied, her voice strangely calm. But that's not all. It turns out Marge isn't the first. When I started looking, I found evidence of at least 3 other affairs over the past 15 years, all with women who worked at the clinic. Guests began to whisper. Some of them looked at Dan with open disgust. 45 years, Dan. Carol's voice now trembled slightly. For 45 years I've been a faithful wife. I supported your career. I raised your children. I was there when you were sick. I stood by you when you made mistakes. And this is how you repaid me. Dan stood up and tried to approach her. Carol, let's talk about this in private. In private? Like you talked with Marge in private? Like you bought her a diamond bracelet in private? Like you planned to spend the weekend with her in private? Carol's voice now sounded like the crack of a whip. No, Dan, we'll talk about this here and now, in front of all the people who came to celebrate your 70th birthday. She turned to the guests. I invited you all to witness a special moment, and it really will be special. Today I announce that after 45 years of marriage, I am filing for divorce from Dan Thompson. Shocked whispers ran through the hall. Jeffrey stood up, confused and stunned. Mom? Dad? What's going on? Ask your father, Carol replied. Ask him about Marge and the cottage by the lake. Dan stood as if paralyzed. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Marge Peters quietly slipped out of the hall. No one tried to stop her. Carol continued, Also, I would like to inform everyone present that yesterday I hired one of the best divorce attorneys in the state. And it turns out that our family home, 2 cars, and the cottage in Vermont, all of this is joint property, as are Dan's retirement savings. Now Dan looked not just shocked, but frightened. Carol, you can't do this, he finally blurted out. We can fix everything. I'll do whatever you ask. Too late, Dan, she replied calmly. I've already done what I had to do. She turned to the guests. Sorry to ruin the party, but I felt that after 45 years of lies, it was time for the truth. Please enjoy the food and drinks. I ordered all this with our joint money while it's still joint. Carol put down the microphone, came up to me, and took my hand. Let's go, Barbara. I've said everything I wanted to. We left the hall, leaving Dan standing there, confused and humiliated, surrounded by 80 people who now knew the truth about his double life. Carol stopped by her car and took a deep breath of the night air. Strange, she said. I thought I would feel terrible, but I feel only relief. What will you do now? I asked. I will continue with the divorce process. I will get my share of everything we built together. And then, she smiled for the first time all evening, then I'm going on a trip. I've always wanted to see Paris. Dan promised to take me there for our 25th anniversary, but he had an emergency surgery. Now I know it wasn't surgery, but some other woman. We got in the car and drove away. Behind us remained the luxurious hall, shocked guests, and 45 years of a life built on lies. 3 months after that party, the divorce was finalized. Carol got the house, half of the retirement savings, and a substantial monthly alimony payment. Dan moved to an apartment closer to the clinic. Marge Peters resigned and, rumor has it, moved to another city. Carol not only visited Paris but also took a cruise on the Mediterranean, visited Italy, Greece, Spain. On Dan's 71st birthday, she was in Barcelona, enjoying sangria and the view of the Mediterranean Sea. And Dan? Last I heard, he's trying to rebuild relationships with his children and grandchildren, who were deeply disappointed by his betrayal. He comes to dinners alone, aged and humiliated. Sometimes, when Carol and I meet for coffee, I ask if she regrets how everything turned out. Regrets? She asks, adjusting her stylish new haircut. The only thing I regret is not doing this earlier. 45 years is too long to live with a lie. Thank you for listening to my story today. If it touched you, don't forget to like and share your thoughts in the comments. I appreciate each and every one of you and your support. And if you want to hear more stories like this, subscribe to my channel.